Hello beautiful souls, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you might know, I'm Daniel van Loosbroek and I recovered from CFS. I've got a website called danielvanloosbroek.com and I post recent blogs on that, and you can also ask for some coaching advice, and there are lots of tips and self-study stuff. And this particular blog I made about the human shadow, as I believe that the human shadow is what is manifesting disease in our lives. So I made this a while ago, but I would like this blog to be on YouTube. So here we go. The human shadow. There is a darkness inside all of us. No matter how perfect your lives have been so far, no matter how desperate you are trying to hide it under the carpet, the darkness inside has tolerantly waited many years to be acknowledged. Life was patient and kept sending you experiences to realize that there is indeed a darkness inside. But no matter how hard it knocked, you prevailed in denying the part of you that is dark, the fraction of your true being that is also most vulnerable. The purpose of pain and fatigue. In my previous blog called The Purpose of Pain and Fatigue, which you can find on my website, I wrote how the purpose of fatigue could be to protect yourself from yourself, the darker part inside of you. Instead of becoming conscious about it, we have stocked up what we now experience as a disease, which is our darkness. It feasts upon our muscles and life energy. It has become a cancer that prohibits us from living. And while we have suffered from these internalized energies for years, we are still in the dark about its existence. The human shadow. Carl Jung called it the human shadow. He chose this word with care, as a shadow is not something we can grasp. It is not something we can get rid of. Depending on the position of the light, the shadow can change shapes and position. The closer you move to the light, the bigger the shadow becomes. Collectively, as a species who didn't grow up with unconditional love, we have learned to fear aspects of who we are. We have learned to deny the rough edges of our soul that complete us into our full being. We have learned to cling to the little light and deny the rest of the room. The rest of the room is who we are as well, as it is trying to let us see itself, because it is in pain. Survival. When our moms warned us for hurting ourselves, it was their fear that we had to deal with, not ours. When we saw that our anger was not accepted by our caretakers, we learned to bury it. So many aspects of who we are were denied by others and later by ourselves. It was a matter of survival to adapt to society's standards. We have become ashamed for who we are and show the world a mask of pretendance that felt very hollow and real at the same time. We always knew something was wrong, but we couldn't pinpoint it. It had become so normal and natural can be opposites in a world like ours. When you deny your own fragments, the fragments of your soul, again and again, and it sends you signals of unworthiness or loneliness, do you honestly believe that you have to find the answers outside of yourself? The pain inside us. If our pain and fatigue protect us from something, then what could it be? I have come to understand that the fatigue is nothing compared to the pain inside of us. There is a well with the most frightening feelings and pain inside of us. If you dig everything up at once, you would probably die from overwhelming sensations. It took me 5 years of emotional healing and introspection to arrive at this point of the well, the bottom of the stockpile, of what I initially called just a stress bucket. Stress is a vague word on its own and can be misinterpreted. Real stress is at the bottom of the stockpile, and it has nothing to do with what you know about the word stress. It is horror, it is dark, and it is preventing us from living. Your body does everything to not let you feel these horrors, as it would completely destroy your self-image. A self-image, a mask, the ego, it is a survival mechanism, and therefore confronting your own horrors is equal to death for the egoic mind. Little drips of darkness. When it comes, when it becomes conscious, many things can happen. Trembling, shaking, shivering, heartaches, migraines, pain, screams, vomiting, gagging, crying, etc. You will know it when it happens. The pain, however, would not be unfamiliar to you, as you have lived with it for many years. The question, however, is, do you still want to fight it? And this is a valid question, as the choice to deny it and live a life of fatigue might be easier. I completely understand the decision that we are unconsciously making every day. The better question is, when does the fatigue become worse than the actual pain inside? And it is at that moment that people are willing to change. When does the suffering become too much? And people with CFS are, in my opinion, the strongest people on this planet. They are so strong that their bodies become weak. The divided mind. Dr. Sarno, he called one of his books The Divided Mind, and it has helped millions of people to heal from chronic conditions. And to say something in between my blog, so he managed to heal 98% of people from chronic pain, and these were the most desperate cases of our society, people who could not be helped by hospitals and stuff. So he managed to help 98% of these people. And he called this book The Divided Mind. The title could be vague at first, but by understanding how conflicted we are inside of ourselves, we have taken the first step to heal. Acceptance. We have to admit that we are not as perfect as our masks pretend us to be, that we are not holy in the old sense of that meaning, that perfectionism has enlarged our shadow as we deep down don't want to be egoist. We don't want to please others and live responsible lives. We detest perfectionism and control deep down. And life wants us to be free and live. And our coping mechanisms have imprisoned us literally. And now the imprisoned part of us is trying to kill the prison ward to escape. And with our last piece of energy, we hold on to our self-image and internalize our shadow. We are rather eaten from the inside than judged by the outside. To say something about coping mechanisms, what is a coping mechanism? I think you should turn it around and say, what is not a coping mechanism? And it could be that 100% of your behavior and thoughts and thinking and patterns and beliefs are coping mechanisms. Duality. Many smart people have to accept that they're not as knowledgeable as they believe they are. Knowledge is often a coping mechanism. We fool ourselves that knowledge makes us feel secure when our internal world feels anything but safe. It makes us reside in the head, away from the body, the holy attic of a house on fire. Knowledge is based on words, Words are based on duality, and in this universe, truth can't be spoken. Everything we can say or think is a perspective only, and based on the prism in which we filter the light of consciousness. All perspectives can live together, as none of them are valid on their own. Every perspective needs the opposite, for without it, it cannot exist. Together they form wholeness, yin and yang. Both of these truths need to be expressed by you. For example, the world is a beautiful place, yet at the same time, I want it to burn. Or, I love my family, but only on certain occasions. Or, I want to impress you, and yet I don't give a shit about you. Or, I am a very strong man, yet I am also weak. And both of those aspects are who you are. It is impossible to just be one of these aspects. You have to embrace both of them. This is called defragmentation of the soul. Healing. Healing comes from wholeness. In my language, it is the same word. Just like combining all points of view, we need to combine the shadow with the light. Both will exist, both are allowed. Allowing the shadow happens in little drips. Focus on the stockpile in the lowest chakras. Allow the pain, the anger, the rejection, the fear, the separation, and the shame in your life. Give the inner scream a voice and trust upon the wisdom behind the process. Treat yourself as a whole being. Write confirmations that it is okay to be angry. This way you can reprogram your unconscious mind and it doesn't need to be internalized anymore. The flow of life. Be prepared for the darkness to rise. In the end, all you can do and all you have to do is to get out of the way and let life do its thing. And understand that any judgment you have is made out of fear, and that to love means to take something as a part of yourself. Fear caused you to split, and love will cause you to heal. You are not a dualistic being. You are oneness, life itself, and healing is your nature. Thank you very much for watching.